Greetings and good morning, fellow rose lovers all over the world. So, it's every morning. So, I wanted to share with you my top 5 best performing roses here at Noor Gardens. And to me, best performing, I've just got a little list here. Best performing roses, in my opinion, are the growth of the rose. So that means obviously in terms of how much it's actually growing, seed production, as in rose hips, the scent of the rose, the look of the rose, and the flower production of the actual shrub itself. And other things, other variants could be, its tolerance to disease, and just its general overall performance. And to me, I have 5 that I have found work very well with this environment. Now, of course, it's all dependable on your environment. Everything depends on your environment, your climate and your temperature. Obviously, I don't live in England or a typical cold climate. I don't have a lot of rain here either. So my climate, I'm in South Australia, extremely hot summers for the most part, not much rain, and we have frosts in the winter. And I want to say the best performing roses that I've had here at Noor Gardens. So my number 1 that I was continually impressed with over the last season is the David Austin Boscobel. Boscobel to me is one of my absolute all-time favorite roses, and not only is it absolutely stunning to look at with its beautiful blush curvature type petals, but the smell is unbelievable, and I would love nothing more than to go out in my garden and just have a whiff of Boscobel. And not just that, but in terms of flower yield and the production of flowers on the actual bush itself, these are second year roses, or at least she's a second year rose. And the type of production that this rose bush had was unbelievable. The amount of roses that she produced was amazing to me. And not only that, I was out there hand pollinating the flowers, just in case, the bees or the flies had missed a couple. I was out there pollinating the hips just to see, for experimental purposes, how many would actually be pollinated and what would the germination rate be for hip production. And I was absolutely flabbergasted. Almost every single rose that I pollinated by hand yielded a rose hip. And so this year, when I've collected the seed, I have had an abundance of hips. And you can see from the video all the dark dead stems of where I've picked the hips. And the hips, or the seeds I should say, are now in my refrigerator. So Boscobel, absolutely not a disappointment for me here. And I've they've really been knocked, especially her, in that garden. It's been a hard summer because we've had absolutely no rain. One rain storm since December the 11th, and now we're in May. So from December to May, we've had 2 rains. One was quite good back in December, and this other one that's happened like a week and a half ago, it was just a quick but cold shower, and that is it. It's been so unbelievably dry. I am hoping in this next week we get some kind of rain. Usually it breaks, the rain breaks over the Anzac period, or the Anzac weekend, but I am at a loss for words at just how dry it's been. So that's my number one, Boscobel. My number two would be Pope John Paul II. Pope John Paul, a hybrid tea, a gorgeous, beautiful white, pure white rose, stunningly beautiful. You can see in the pictures here just how gorgeous this rose is. This is a stunning rose, used for weddings, because not only does it look magnificent, but the smell is unbelievable. For a white rose, I guess, there's this kind of stigma for white roses. They're not very smelly. Well, Pope John Paul II does not disappoint. The smell is gorgeous. The texture and the shape of the rose is absolutely beautiful. Full big petals and foliage, and the growth is quick. The growth is, I put that rose in last year, and you can see from the video how nice the growth has been on that rose. So, very hardy, very strong rose. And even till now, I've had flowers. So all through the spring, a little in the summer, but now since it's cooled down, she's come out again. She's come out for another flush, another spray of flowers. In terms of hip production, I haven't seen much on this, but bearing in mind this is a first year rose, there may be some hip production next year. But in terms of fragrance, unbelievable, beautiful, just lovely. And look, it is a gorgeous rose. My number 3 rose, and by the way, the way that I'm putting these in order, the top 5, none is better than the other. It's just what I'm coming out with at the time. They're all top performers. My number 3 rose will be Kiss Me Kate. Absolutely love Kiss Me Kate. It's a Cordes rose. And the smell, if you've had Kiss Me Kate in your garden, is sublime. Again, one of those roses that I would simply just take a walk out into the rose bed and would just go and sniff Kiss Me Kate. The smell alone is just amazing. And she may not have had the best growth in terms or in comparison to some of the other roses, but the smell makes up for that. The smell and the scent of Kiss Me Kate is pungent, it's sweet, it's fruity, it just gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling. So as soon as you breathe in, you can't help but smile, because it's just such a stunning rose. It is pretty. It's a beautiful pink rose. The scent, though, has to be one of the best smelling roses that I think I've smelled. My number 4 rose that has just blown me away this season is only a first year rose. So I purchased this rose last year, put it in the ground in maybe, I can't remember if it was like around August. It's called the Wedding Rose. And the growth of this rose has been like nothing I have seen with any other rose I've had here. Now, I've had some unbelievable growth this last year with my roses, and some have grown, over 1.5 meters tall, like up here on me. That's because we had nice rain in the spring. Spring was lovely, but the growth of this wedding rose would be equivalent to that of in my opinion, 4 to 5 year old rose. I just can't believe how, the canes are so strong and so thick and so big. I'm absolutely at loss for words at the growth of this, and you can see this in this video. The growth of this year, a first year rose, it's unbelievable to me, and I'm absolutely blown away by that. And in terms of growth alone, that has absolutely come into my top 5, that's qualified for my top 5 roses. It has a gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful, full white rose, beautiful, large petals with a gorgeous pattern of, of the way the petals are placed. It is not called the wedding rose for no reason. It is the ultimate perfect wedding rose, a beautiful white rose. However, it does not have that much scent. It is not a scented rose, and it would win alone purely for how big the roses get, and how much growth is in these rose bushes. So being that this is a first year, I cannot even imagine how they're going to be coming this spring. I'm very excited to see how they will progress. And bearing in mind, I have 2 major rose areas, rose beds, and one has been absolutely cordoned off from my chooks, from my chickens, because they love nothing more than getting in and scratching around the roses. But this messes up the sawdust and the microbial life underneath the soil. It does keep the weeds down, but I have found that when the soil is left undisturbed, the growth rate of the roses is amazing. And as you can see in the video, I've got all these little milk containers around each rose in the David Austin rose bed. That is because I have baby stock seedlings, each inside being protected from the chickens inside. And the reason I have stock planted is that I found purely by accident last year that ladybirds absolutely love stock. And I'm talking more than 30 to a stock plant, to a stock shrub. That was purely by accident that I saw that last year. And because I had a great spring last spring in 2020, I had an amazing aphid problem as well. So I actually went online and purchased some ladybugs. I can't remember how many, like 30 or 50. I let them out of the little container they came in. They were gone within 2 seconds. So I won't be doing that again. But now that I know that ladybugs love stock, it's a purple, extremely fragrant, single petal flower. And the ladybugs just love to sit in the flower, love to sit in the leaves. They get down in the little crevices. They are just covering this stock plant. If you are interested in buying some of this purple stock, I have it on my website. I'll put a link below and you can purchase some. And yeah, and if you're mad about roses like I am, stock will at least keep ladybugs close to your rose bushes. So what I'm experimenting with is growing a stock plant at the base of the roses and allowing the ladybugs to hopefully jump onto the roses when there's aphids around. And just knowing that I have ladybugs and hopefully a lot of them by springtime will help curb the aphid issue I had last year. Aphids went crazy on my roses. However, my roses recovered well, and I still had a beautiful flower production. So that's what you're seeing in the video. And so my last rose, which is not as common, but to me absolutely, was incredible in terms of flower production, is blush damask. And blush damask is a Persian rose. It's from the Damascena family, and it's an extremely old-fashioned rose. So it's an old rose, and highly fragrant. It's one of the most fragrant roses. It's very hard for me to describe the smell, but it's got a musky, very strong musky, florally sweet kind of smell, almost woody as well. Like, it's so hard to describe, but it just reminds me of musk. Beautiful, beautiful rose. And I had so many flowers, so many buds last year. The buds were actually, so I would have a bud and then there would be another bud actually growing on top or somehow inside the other bud. And I just knew I was going to have a flood of blush damask roses, and I did. However, they got a little bit damaged about a week before they were going to bloom because we had 3 days of cold, wet rain, and that just spoiled their full potential. So even though they did obviously bloom, they didn't look as good as they probably could have. And again, you know, everything is dependable on the weather. So blush damask, although she doesn't look all that good now, obviously we're heading into winter, which I cannot wait for. And she's looking a bit, you know, dormant, and they're all settling in for winter. So in terms of scent, amazing. Growth, the growth was moderate, but the scent and the flower itself just supersedes, you know, it's kind of moderate growth capability. In comparison to its sister, which is another Persian rose called Isfahan, I'm, you know, flabbergasted at seeing the growth on that rose right now. All of a sudden, you know, it feels like within the last month, that's just doubled in size down the other end of the paddock. But blush damask wins, even over its other sister, Trigantipetala, which is known as the attar rose. I actually found that Trigantipetala is not as strong as what everybody says it is. It is a nice scent. It's medium in strength. However, blush damask and I believe Botsaris are the ones that are the strongest scent. So they are my top 5 performing roses that I've had at Noor this season. And if you're looking for, everybody has different ideas and ideals for what they're looking for in a rose. But for me, scent is a big thing. Look is obviously another, and tolerance within an environment like this. So I guess, you know, good growth in a climate like mine. So those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm, you know, purchasing a rose and then obviously growing the rose. Scent, I think, would have to be the biggest. I don't necessarily care so much about how the rose looks, but scent to me is everything. And I love nothing more than to walk through a beautiful smelling garden. And I love the thought of the scent attracting pollinators. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like more information, please visit my website at andalera.com. If you're interested in seeing the progress of my garden at Noor, I have a blog, and you can see the blog on the website. Happy gardening!